Hey there, everybody. This is Kristin from Teaching Balance, and I am here with you with this week's mindfulness meditation practice. And we are now in a new month, and our new month has a new theme, and that theme is self-embodiment. Now, this is one of the 4 elements of a balanced teacher, or being in balance, from my Teaching Balance themes. And it's not as self-explanatory as I think it would be preferable for it to be, but the idea behind self-embodiment is really being very in tune with your body, feeling very connected with your body, and a very large component of that, of course, is taking care of your body and doing whatever it is that your body might need to keep it moving and working and functioning. And, some people often will think of the body as like, the vehicle for the brain. It gets me from here to there, gets me from where I need to go. But of course, it's so much more than that. And so what I thought would be a fun way to start off this month of focusing on self-embodiment is to talk a little bit about healthy micro habits. Now, here's what I mean by that. One of the things that I hope comes across with all the various invitations that I offer to you is that it's not this like preachy, this is the way it has to be, do this, do that, and all of that kind of thing. That's never really what I'm aspiring to convey. What I am aspiring to convey instead is just some food for thought, some things to reflect on. And honestly, all of that comes from my own personal journey of personal development, of trying to be physically well, of trying to be mentally well, and just to be happy and content and okay. And so it's really interesting because I've talked about this in the past. Sometimes when we talk about body stuff and physical health, a lot of people have this like pushback immediately because it's like there's this immediate assumption that what we're talking about is that kind of message that we hear so much from the media about you have to look like this and do that to be desirable and this and that and all of this kind of stuff. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm really just interested in opening up a dialogue regarding making choices that are healthy so that you can do what's important to you. You can sustainably do your work and sustainably, be with your family and be, active to some degree, picking up a toddler, like just all of those sorts of things. And then, honestly, for me, being in my 50s now, there's also something to be said for reflecting on the value of health when it comes to living well as our body naturally begins to age. Now, that was a big intro, but I want to talk about micro habits. So here's the idea behind this. Instead of having this invitation to reflect on your health and to think about ways that you might be able to enrich it in some way, improve it in some way, whatever word you want to use, it doesn't have to be a big deal. It doesn't have to be this like, I'm going vegan, or I'm giving up sugar, or I'm going to train for a marathon. Not that all of those things aren't wonderful and worthwhile. I'm talking about micro habits of the sort that, you've heard these kinds of things before. Maybe you just park your car a little farther away from the door at work, at the store, at whatever. Or maybe you just not even give up, but shift your dessert that you have, after dinner or whatever it might be. Like tiny micro habits. The thing that I love about playing with this idea of micro habits is that they're not threatening and they're not overwhelming. And because they're so minor, there's no need to resist it. You know what I mean? So even if I say, I don't know, I'm trying to think of another example of a micro habit. this is silly, but like I'm going to practice. They talk a lot about as you get older, the value of balance, physical balance. You know, as I'm preparing my coffee, I'll stand on one leg, right? You know what I mean? I mean, it sounds a little silly, but here's, instead of me giving you some sort of, you know, on the spot laundry list of examples, my invitation to you is reflect on what are some of those little micro habits that you can integrate into your life. Maybe a little bit more water, a little less caffeine. You know, you get the idea. So that is my invitation to you, to reflect on what feels accessible, what feels easy for you to adjust slightly in a way that, of course, while it feels easy and effortless because it's a micro habit, over time it has what's the word? Cumulative. Thank you. Cumulative effect that I think can be really helpful and that we can build on. So that's my intro. Wow, that was long. Okay, let's get started. You know, of course, that meditation is extremely healthy. Let me make sure this is still going. Yes. Because there's a lot of reasons, but certainly because it allows us to, honestly, I kind of feel like the big reason is it helps us to get back in the driver's seat of our mind. That really feels like the best summative argument for why meditation is valuable, to me at least. Taking those deep breaths, which of course has health benefits. Allowing our nervous system to down-regulate back to its homeostatic state, which of course is healthy and supportive. And then of course developing this metacognitive awareness, being aware of what's going on in our minds and knowing we can pull ourselves out of it. We can shift and make choices and not necessarily get yanked around by whatever thoughts du jour seem to be most dominant in our minds at any given time. Allowing yourself to settle in. Dropping into your body. And if it's interesting to you, doing a check-in. I was having some lower back pain earlier. It seems as though it's lightened up slightly. But as you do that scan of your body, having a real quality of non-judgment, you're just observing and noting. You're not trying to fix anything either. You don't need to stretch or shift. And if there is perhaps areas of discomfort, like I was just mentioning, resisting any temptation to tell yourself the story about it or what you're going to do about it. And at least for these 7 or so minutes that remain, just being gently present to it. That's the part that makes it restful. We're taking a break from fixing and adjusting and assessing and deciding, and instead we're just resting, at least for right now. So let's take a little time just to settle in. Noticing where the mind is. And if it's helpful, before we come back to the present moment, come back to resting our attention on our anchor, almost taking a little bit of a mental snapshot of whatever images were in your mind in that moment. Whether it was planning something or remembering something or list making or whatever it might be. Almost take a still shot from the movie of your mind, you could say. Take a good look at it. And you just kind of set it down on the metaphorical table. You can always go back to it later and then come back to where we are this last minute and a half or so of our practice. I have to be honest, I was kind of thinking about lunch and that last minute and a half or so. I'm like, oh, what am I going to have for lunch? So, I think I talked a lot at the beginning, so I'll just wrap it up. Thank you, as always, for taking this time for yourself. And thank you for allowing me to accompany you on this journey. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Bye.